I wanted to watch the Matt Armstrong Ferrari rebuild. Have you guys ever heard of him? Ever heard of Matt Armstrong? He's like popping off right now. He's popping off right now. It says I watched it, but I didn't watch it. Trust me, this is the first time I've ever seen it. And the reason, let me tell you my little theory. The reason why this man is popping off so much. Every video, look at that. 1.4 million views, 1.9 million views, 1.3 million views. Like, that's a lot of views. You know what I'm saying? And here's my theory. Well, it's just an observation, really. Someone who is willing to do something like this, rebuild a car that is just destroyed, and this one right here isn't even the worst. I'm pretty sure. I mean, his other ones were rolled. He had to take the roof off, stuff like that. But to be willing to rebuild a car like that, that's a lot of work. That takes so much determination and hard work and troubleshooting, dealing with problems, and stuff that you don't really see. Most of the stuff is behind the camera. He shows, 15 minutes of him working on the car, talking about the car, 15, 20 minutes. That's all you see. Obviously, that's how videos work, and that's how they make them interesting. But for him to actually complete project after project after project, it's just impressive. It's just impressive. So I am among those people that watch and appreciate his work, man. You gotta respect people rebuilding cars. You got it. Cars are just so impressive. All right, let's get into it.
Get ready for the beefiest summer ever at Circusburg.
You guys can hear me, right? Yeah.
So this is the conrod out of this Ferrari engine, which is quite clearly bent. And this is the Ferrari 430 that I bought from the track experience place for £60,000. Which means...
By the way, I think he's about to say it, but £60,000. I don't know how much that is in American dollars, but it's a lot. How does this car cost £60,000 in this condition? Like, I'm sure he'll explain it, but like running, driving, low mileage, everything working, Ferraris of this same model are 99, 100,000. So that's not a huge difference. It's not really a huge difference when you think about everything that's involved or gonna be involved in fixing this car up. But
they sound expensive, but our only saving grace is that this is a gated manual. And the only gated manual coupe for sale in the UK is just short of £100,000. So it's safe to say the budget is going to be tight when rebuilding this Ferrari. Oh my God. Which is going to be difficult, seeing as most of the engine and the gearbox came with this car in millions of pieces. But now I need to see what £60,000 got me.
Push. Oh, they got it.
Let me explain the bumper situation. In fact, Hannah's going to explain the bumper situation.
Bumper, I hardly know her.
This is not the bumper that should be on a F430. This is a Scudder rear bumper, which is a little bit more expensive. In fact, a lot more expensive than a 430 bumper. How much is one of these bumpers?
The bumper alone, £3,245.20.
Oh.
Not only that, this thing here How
The
much
car I
is that?
drive costs less than that.
2,260.
The whole car.
72.
And 72p.
That's a story,
This
but
is like over
I got a good deal, obviously.
£5,000 worth of bumper, and it's got self-tapper screws in it. It's absolutely battered. Safe to say, I don't think we're going to be replacing it with a Scudder rear bumper. We're going to have to look elsewhere. It's salvageable. Now the rear bumper, I don't.
That's not a good sign when you can just do a little tug and the whole bumper comes off. That is not a good sign. This car is in bad shape.
Think it's actually original, but
I know it doesn't look like it, but it's in bad shape. Okay?
it is a 430 bumper. But how much is one of them?
3,101.
And the diffuser, which is
Wow.
missing, which is what we're going to need to buy, is how much?
Oh wait.
how much is the?
The diffuser is £3,101. The bumper is 4,480.
Oh.
8,430.
Oh my God. So we're not having a carbon diffuser. Okay, we've definitely got to find maybe some second-hand parts. I don't know. I'm not sure that's supposed to be in here.
Was that a Lamborghini? Was that a Lamborghini part? Let's
The
see.
diffuser. Okay, we've definitely got to find maybe some second-hand parts.
I skipped
I
too
don't
far.
know. I'm not sure that's supposed to be in here.
Yes, it is.
Oh, is it off?
Wow. The bumper's off.
Ferraris are so expensive. Like, that's one of the reasons why I don't have a Ferrari yet in my collection. Because everything about them is just expensive. They are beautiful, beautiful cars. They're amazing cars. But even to deal with like the dealership, it's kind of interesting. Ferrari is very particular, which is okay. It's just it can be hard sometimes. It can be hard.
Hey! Now, seeing as this car hasn't been on the road in over 11 years, it's gathered a lot of dust. So I thought it's only right that we cleaned it, which made me notice a few strange things. Grey, grey, and then on this side, silver and silver. Nice. And now it's time we remove any evidence of it ever being a track experience car. Although I think its life on track was short-lived, as the bodywork's looking pretty good for an X-Track car. How good has this turned out? It's starting to look promising. For a 2005 car, the paint looks really good.
Wow. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. I mean, it doesn't have an engine or transmission, I'm pretty sure, but that can be arranged. That can be acquired.
But bearing
sure,
in mind it's
for
been
sure.
absolutely battered around a track its whole life, we've got a little, like, I don't know if it's rust because I think these are aluminium, so I don't.
What is
That's
that?
that's a problem.
Yeah.
Apparently on the F430s it's common for the lights to wobble. There's no exception on my one because it's so sticky. It leaves fingerprints in it. But the time that it did spend on track took its toll on the interior, especially
Yikes.
as it was left to sit there for a long time. According to Google, only around 1,500 manual F430s were ever made, which makes this one pretty special.
15, was that 1,500 or 15,000? I'm sorry, I trust you, but I think it's at 15,000. Maybe I
You
wasn't
start
looking.
attacking the carpet.
Oh, come on.
And whilst my dad was working on the front of the car, sit there for a long time. According to Google, only around 1,500
15,000. 15,000. Oh. Pardon me. It does say in the blue highlighted area that around 1,500 came with a manual. Oh my goodness, that's embarrassing.
manual F430s were ever made,
Yes,
which
yes.
makes this
He's
one
right.
pretty special.
Yes, it
First
is.
out is the seats. 4 bolts holding them in and 1 seat belt which is connected to them. Then we can start attacking the carpet. And whilst my dad was working on the front of the car, he found something missing. What's missing?
Well, you see that hole under there, look? That's supposed to have a clutch master cylinder.
Oh, wow. Wow. The master cylinder is... Why would they take another master cylinder unless there was another manual? The clutch master cylinder is attached to the clutch pedal, and its job...
Maybe they needed a master cylinder. I mean, that's
when you
that
push
could
down
be
the
why
clutch
they take
pedal
it.
is to push
Take it,
hydraulic
take it.
fluid through the clutch system, allowing you to release the clutch. Finding a second-hand master cylinder on one of these could be pretty hard, and brand new, you're looking at around £332. Cheers, guys, thank you. So it's beyond me why that master cylinder's missing, but we'll worry about that later. For now, I'm cracking on with getting this interior back to how it should be. It's not a full detail, but the interior has been absolutely transformed by about an hour worth of cleaning. It's definitely making me feel a little bit more confident about my purchase. Okay, we have got Freddie's engine, which he kindly donated to us, which has a bent conrod. One bent conrod. And then we also
That is
have
bent.
the original engine block here. We've got to make a decision now on what block we're going to use, because we've got to build up an engine for this Ferrari. Bad news about the original block is in some of the cylinders, you might find it hard to see here, they are scored. Now these sleeves, you can actually replace them, but in Freddie's block, these cylinders are all good. So I think we're going to use this block. Yeah. Now I know the Ferrari fanatics are probably not going to like that I'm not using the original block, but for now this is the most cost-effective option. So let's start stripping this one. And we've got a lovely new parts cleaner. Thanks Motul. Whilst Hannah is on the cleaning duty, me and my dad are trying to work out how this engine was assembled. Before we take this engine apart, we're just taking note on how it was put together, providing it was put together actually properly. But if you look at the bottom of the rods here, that's marked with a Y and then a number. And then on this side, it's marked with an X and a number. Then again, it goes to Y and a number, and X and a number. So it constantly goes Y, X. The last cylinder,
X,
this
Y,
one,
X,
it went
Y.
with a Y on this side, but the one that's actually bent is also a Y marked conrod. As we couldn't really see any pattern between the X conrods and the Y conrods, and it's also really difficult to find any information on this
You gotta
engine
just lay 'em out.
online, which you'll find is a problem later in the video. I can only think of one person I could turn to.
Freddie?
We're trying to work
Nope.
out
I
these
don't know what his name
conrods
is.
because they're all marked weirdly. Like, so some have X on and some have Y on.
So if it's on the bottom of the cap facing you when you flip the engine upside down, I'm sure that's a batch-in number. To be honest, mate, unless you want to balance the rotating assembly, I wouldn't really worry too much, because I'm pretty confident we get it on the Audis as well, where they're like a batch-in code. So you can look at it and you can go, oh, all the X's are like a certain weight, but it doesn't really matter too much as long as your codes on the side of the rod match. So as long as they're fine, mate, you'll be mint.
We have
As long as they're fine, mate. As long as they're fine, mate, you'll be in.
two
Not quite.
crankshafts, one out of Freddie's engine and one out of the original engine. We need to make sure one of them is at least good. The crankshaft is a huge part right near the bottom of the engine. The explosion from the combustion pushes the piston and the conrod down, which makes the crankshaft rotate. Now, as we had a bent conrod on our engine, which seized the engine up, we want to make sure that that's caused no damage to the actual crankshaft, because this part of the crankshaft is where the bearing sits, and if it's damaged here, it might not be getting the right oil feed or have the right clearances, which would cause engine failure all over again. Now, what I'm doing now
Don't
with
want
the
that.
micrometer is measuring one side of the crankshaft, then the other side, making sure it's all even. And I'm doing this in two places for each part of the crankshaft where the bearing sits. All the engineer people are going to say this is not an exact measurement, but no, but
You know what though? People say what they're gonna say. You know, you're always gonna have somebody. Unfortunately, you're always gonna have somebody talking bad about you. You know, I don't like this word, but hating on you. Just let people do their thing, man. I mean, what else is he gonna do? He's doing the best he can, and that's all you can do.
We think it's pretty good. It's the best we can do with the kit we've got, basically. I'm confident with this one. Let me show you what I think a bad crank looks like. This goes straight over that, and I assume you look at that. I don't even have to adjust the micrometer. Look, doesn't go over that, straight over that. I mean, I don't think I'll be putting that one in. There's visual light scores in that one, but
Yeah.
we're struggling to see any difference in any of that crank. We're going to say that one is good, this one for the bin. Now the engine is pretty much completely stripped, so we're going to clean it all up in the parts washer before we can build it all back up again. But to move forward from this point, we're going to need some parts. And there's only one place I could think of where we could get parts fast.
A parts store.
We're going to come here and hopefully leave with loads of Ferrari parts. Let's get shopping. We've took a trip to Euro Spares, which have a load of new and used Ferrari parts. Their warehouse is
I've never heard of that
absolutely
before.
massive. They even have full complete engines for sale. So we made sure to take a lot of photos of how the engine was assembled whilst it was on the rack in there.
Wow.
But we didn't come for an engine.
This place is
One
like
red
heaven.
bumper, one orange bumper, and a bunch of stuff which should
place is
help us
beautiful.
build up the Ferrari engine when we get
What was it
back.
called?
I don't know how much for, but we spent a lot. Now there's loads of
called Euro something. Might just.
I don't even have to adjust the
Oh,
microphone.
I keep skipping back.
Doesn't
too far.
go over that. Engine is pretty much complete.
There we go.
With loads of Ferrari parts. Let's get.
Euro Spares. All right, let's look this up. EUROSPARES. Euro Spares. What? It had what I wanted, and then it freaking information. Eurospare. Well, look at all these parts. Okay, whatever. But that looks like a cool place. I bet it's only in Europe, though.
Get parts fast. We're gonna come here and hopefully leave with loads of Ferrari parts. Let's get shopping. We've took a trip to Euro Spares, which have a load of new and used Ferrari parts. Their warehouse is absolutely massive. They even have full complete engines for sale. So we made sure to take a lot of photos of how the engine was assembled whilst it was on the rack in there. But we didn't come for an engine. One red bumper, one orange bumper, and a bunch of stuff which should help us build up the Ferrari engine when we get back. I don't know how much for, but we spent a lot. Now there's loads of parts on this Ferrari that we can cross-reference to different cars, and we can save.
This stuff is fun. I don't know about you guys, but like, even like a junkyard, like junkyards are amazing to me. Like, I love it. You walk in between all these old cars, and you wonder, what is their story? Who sat in this seat? Why is a crack pipe on the ground? And then you think about, I bet I know why this car is damaged. But no, seriously, junkyards are cool. I remember I had a little white Nissan truck, 85. It had like the bench seats. Like all these trucks, all these old trucks, like, or most of them, used to come with just these bench seats, which is fine. Like, they're cool bench seats. But then in the middle, it's hard to sit, especially if it's a manual like mine was, because your legs will just hit it, right? So anyways, I had this truck, and the bench seat was just destroyed. It was just sunk down to like the springs. So I was like, well, I gotta do something about that. How about I go to a junkyard and find new seats? So we went to a junkyard, didn't find a bench seat, but found some nice separate captain's chairs. Modified them to be able to fit in my truck, and now that's what's in there. But anyways, you can find so much stuff, and this is stuff that you can probably get at a good deal. I don't know about Euro spares, but junkyards are cheap, man. Like, they're cheap. They are cool.
A lot of money by doing that, but there's some parts like the bumpers and a lot of the seals and bearings which aren't cross-referenced. So they're the bits that we're buying today. And the total amount of parts we have here, it didn't look like much, but it's fitted into a Range Rover. £13,887.48, which means we are now £73,887.48 into the 430. But we should have enough now to put this thing back together. Most of it, really.
I can tell by the look on his face, he's sort of stressing. He's sort of stressing about that price. 73,000. Not brand new, but new one. 99,000. Getting kind of close, and you don't have the engine together yet. But he's making the videos. He's gonna be fine. It's not like it's gonna bankrupt him.
But we'll find out. One very expensive trip later, and we're back, and now we can start building up the engine. I think what we're gonna start with are the 2-cylinder heads. With this being a V8, there's 2-cylinder heads, 4 pistons each side. Here's 1-cylinder head, and here's the other. This one's upside down, but you can see here the exhaust valves and then the inlet valves on this side here. These are gonna open and close to let air in and to let all the waste out. But to make sure we're gonna get the most power out of the engine, these have got to sit perfectly flat against the top of the head. And to make sure that we do so, we've got to take them all out. And these are held in here with little springs and these collets on the top of the valve. But we'll take them out and we'll go from there. Let's do it. To take them out, my dad's going to use this sort of clamp which squashes the valve springs down, and then once the valve springs are squashed down, it can get a magnet to remove the collets which hold the valve spring.
They have tools for everything. I've worked on a couple cars. I like working on my own cars. And at first you're struggling because you're using a crescent wrench or a butter knife or a screwdriver. And they have specialty tools. Maybe not even specialty tools. They just have tools for basically anything you need. And it makes the job so much easier. If you just realize that, go look at the parts store. If you're working on cars, it'll make your life a whole lot easier. Trust me.
Onto the valves. Once the collets are removed, we can release the clamp and then remove the valve springs, which will give us access to the valve. And this part right at the bottom, we want that to be super clean so it sits nicely in the valve seats. My dad's got a lot to get through, so whilst he was doing that, I put the Ferrari in the lift to inspect the underneath of it. Found something else. I just noticed there's a bolt in there and a bolt in there, like these brackets which are like mounted to the chassis. And then on this side, there's no bolt here or here, so the radiator is just completely free. So we're missing some kind of bracket on the top and the bottom there. Well,
that's,
fantastic. Now before I bought this car, I checked it out on Car Vertical, and everything seems all good. There's no records of it ever being in an accident. There's no outstanding finance, there's no mileage rollbacks, and it's never been recorded as stolen. as this car was a track experience car for most of its life, it's unlikely that a crash would have ever been recorded. So I'm going to take a look over it and see if there's any signs of one. We're actually doing all right here. So underneath here, it looks like the standard suspension is adjustable coilovers, so we can adjust the ride height up and down. It's also looks like it's adaptive, so maybe it's got some kind of adaptive suspension to harden and soften it when you're in different modes. Everything here looks pretty good for a 2005 car. Anything on this side looks fine, and that side looks fine. Let's have a look underneath. Now,
Who thinks he's gonna find something? I would bet there'd be some sort of damage on this car. Like I said in the last stream, when you're driving a rental car, when most people drive rental cars, they treat them like crap because they're trying to get the most out of them. They drive them crazy. They do crazy stuff. You know what I mean? I try to treat rental cars with respect. I love cars. I try to be good, but most people aren't gonna view it that way. So there's got to be some sort of accident or damage, I would guess, but we'll see.
if you were checking a car out on Car Vertical which had previously been in an accident, then it would flag up on the report here. And if the car...
Let's skip ahead a little bit. Link in description. All right.
What's all them? Look at all these bolts. They didn't want this falling off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, like a small scratch there, but nothing really that bad. Oh, a little bit of a corner mist in there, but yeah. With the valves now out of the cylinder head, we now have another job, the valve seals. The seal sits on the valve here and stops any oil from getting on top of the valve or inside the combustion chamber.
Normally when the oil's on the springs and everything at night, and then it runs down the stem of the valve.
Yeah.
You know, it runs down the stem of the valve past the seal and then rests on top of your piston. So when you start up in the morning, it smokes a lot.
And they're in every single one. And that's exactly what will happen if we have bad valve seals. We'll get a lot of smoke on startup in the mornings, or really bad ones could just smoke all the time. But before we put new seals in, we've got to clean up the valves. Next step, now that they're clean, we've got to make sure they mate nicely on the surface around here. So we use this paste, which is like kind of like grinding paste almost, and that's going to go in the seat. Slide it in.
Grinding paste?
Grind it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
You see how that's all nice and clean?
Yeah.
Look
It's
at
like
this one, there's a good
grit,
one.
like
It's not
sand,
very
like
good.
Oh yeah, and that's all
sticky
dirt.
sand grit.
Yeah.
Can you see how
stuff.
that's the seat?
Oh,
is
now it's
nice
nice
and
and
shiny.
clean. Ah. Yeah. All the power. Right, 32 to go. Well, 31 now. My dad and myself cracked on with grinding the rest of the valves in place before moving on to the next step. Okay, valves are clean, seated in. All we've got to do now, we're going to keep the same springs on there, but we need to change the valve seals. We've got this full seal kit. These are the new valve seals, and as I mentioned, they're pretty vital to replace when doing an engine build like this. My dad's using a socket to push the oil seal in place, and once the seal is sat in place like that, we can then push the valve in from underneath, and it should fit nice and snug. Then it's time.
This game, you're not ready for it.
For both the valve springs to sit on top of the valve, and we've got to compress this all to put the collet in place. Now, we saw a video on TikTok of a guy doing some kind of hack to get the collet in place using a socket and a piece of plastic, and we were dying to see whether that actually worked, because if it did, it would save a lot of his time fiddling around with the collets. Collets are in. Okay, plastic bag.
Okay, plastic.
And
this is a good idea.
Tool.
clamp. Yeah, go and squeeze it.
Oh no.
Oh no, it's gonna launch, it's gonna launch. We failed on our first attempt, but on the second,
Yes!
hey, did it go? Did it work? Yeah!
Very nice.
Once we'd sussed the hack out, we were moving quick time, putting all
Very
the valves,
nice.
the springs and the collets back on each one. And there we go. Every valve spring is in. That head is just about ready, but we need to test it.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Oh, this really does my heart good. Really does my heart good. To see these engines being rebuilt. These beautiful gas internal combustion engines. Beautiful thing to behold. Beautiful thing to behold.
To make sure a valve, well, all of them are actually properly in, because if the valve opens and it then drops it into the cylinder, it could be drastic, and we don't want to do that. So we're going to test them now by just
Okay,
knocking
good idea.
the valve down to
Very
open
good
it
idea.
and making sure everything stays in place. Is this how Ferrari would do it?
Yeah.
Whee!
Very
One
nice.
cylinder head ready for the engine. We just got to do that one now. With the cylinder heads complete, we can then turn our attention to the actual engine block. And one thing we need to do before we reassemble it is make sure the cylinder sleeves are nice and smooth. At the minute you can see there's a lot of scratches and grooves in there, but nothing that can't be fixed. And to sort these out, we need to rub a bit of oil in the sleeve.
That's the attitude to have. Nothing that can't be fixed. Where there's a will, there's a way. It's the truth.
And then my dad's going to use this tool to hone out the cylinder.
Very nice.
And there we have one smooth cylinder sleeve. Just another 7 to go.
Yep. That's how it works.
All of the sleeves are nice and smooth. This engine is effectively ready to build back up. Let's go. It's actually a sticker gasket there.
And you think it sticks on this bit?
Yeah, well, you think it does. Next gasket. No stickers
Gaskets.
on
Gaskets are important.
Or is it beat?
And
that one. We're in a predicament.
you really have to...
I've just ordered a work.
What was I going to say? Gaskets, you got to replace them. Like, if you take it apart once, you sort of got to just replace the gaskets. It's just a good rule to follow. Like, if you take your exhaust off, you should replace the gaskets. But I don't know why I said that. It's just a little piece of wisdom, I guess.
Workshop manual for the Ferrari engine, which is also a Maserati engine, but it only shows you torque specs and workshop procedures for serviceable items. So things like clutches, thermostats, auxiliary belts, nothing as big as this. And we've since found out that Ferrari don't give out torque specs or repair procedures for jobs as big as this, because it's supposed to be done by Ferrari and not just a bloke in a
They
garage
want all
in
the money.
Leicester. So if you're a Ferrari technician, then the comment section is open for you. We need your help, because I'm not sure Ferrari are going to help us, although we're trying to put one of their cars back on the road. And our next step is...
Exactly. Ferrari, come on, Ferrari. Help this man out. Help him out. It's your beautiful car. Don't you want one of your cars back on the road? It's like free advertisement. Not that you really need advertisements, but couldn't hurt. Couldn't
to
hurt.
do the piston ring gap. We've taught this to our spec. It's just tight, okay? But the next thing is to do all the piston ring gaps. That's what we've got to do next. But we can't do that, one, without the piston ring specs, and two,
True.
without the piston rings. They haven't arrived yet, so we're stuck.
How can you order those items
Yeah.
for a big strip down down if they can't give you the specs
Yeah,
to
that-
tighten them up.
That is actually quite true. How in the UK they can sell you structural parts for a Porsche, but they can't tell you how to fit them. So Ferrari must be able to sell you parts.
But then they've got to fit them.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. So we're left with this bent conrod. Shall I throw it away?
No, I want to give it away.
I think
No, keep it.
we're gonna
Souvenir.
give this conrod away to someone who orders within the next 100 orders of mattarmstrong.co.uk. The hoodies are out, the new hard work Beat Talent hoodie. You can check it out with the link in the description. Oh, and the hats as well. Go grab something and we'll pick someone in the next 100 orders to send that conrod to. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you've enjoyed it,
All
hit
right.
that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button, and I'll see you in the
All
next
right.
video. Peace out.
Peace.
Yeah, like nuts, yeah. No, I know all about them.
All right. Very nice. Very nice. Listen, you gotta respect it. You gotta respect it, man. It's a beautiful thing what this man is doing. He will continue to get my support. If I can help him any way I can, he will continue to get views because he's doing good work, man. He's doing good work.